Auburn versus Oklahoma. What's at stake in this SEC matchup?
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into this special bonus crossover edition of Locked On Auburn and Locked On Sooners. I'm Zach Blackerby of Locked On Auburn. He is the John Williams, host of Locked On Sooners. Kind of a tale of two different teams right now as Oklahoma heads to Neville at 8 o'clock Central Time. Tip on a Tuesday. No one truly wins. No one truly wins these 8 o'clock Tuesday night tips. But John, this is an Oklahoma team that a lot of folks are really excited about going into conference play, talking about how deep this league is. And then conference play hit, and you started to see some of this parity kind of shake things up. And that seems to have really impacted the Sooners so far.
Yeah, for Oklahoma, so much of what they were going to be about this year was going to be determined by how they performed in conference play. And they've been up and down. Yeah. They're 3-5 so far. They've had some close losses to Texas A&M. They've had some blowout losses to, say, Georgia, but then they picked up a big 30-point win over number 24 Vanderbilt over the weekend. And so it's just hard to get a good grasp on what this team is relative to the league. But I think what we're finding out is interior play matters, just like it does on the football field. What happens in the trenches matters a whole lot, just like it does on the basketball court. And when Oklahoma is able to hang in there in the rebounding game, they've hung in there in the game. And again, picking up that big win over Vanderbilt, getting Jeremiah Fears going again, I think that's going to matter as they get closer to March.
Yeah. My co-host that hops on with me on our Auburn basketball postgame shows, he talked about how Oklahoma getting a big win over Vanderbilt, which was should Vanderbilt have been ranked? I don't know. They had two major wins last week, and so I guess they were deserving of it. But to me, I think this is good news for Auburn, because now it's like there's no reason to overlook Oklahoma. There's no reason for it. They just beat a ranked team. Who's to say they can't do that to you? So I think that's a good thing for Auburn going into this game, or is that me just kind of being a homer? John, what do you think?
Well, I think for Auburn, I mean, you've got to be worried about everybody, right? I mean, even though you're one of the better teams in the country, you've got the target on your back. Mm-hmm. And so you've got to continue to go prove it, especially as you vie for seeding. You know, it's not just about picking up wins. You got to pick up a lot of wins if you want to get one of those 1 seeds when it comes to the NCAA tournament. And you want to set yourself up for hopefully what turns out to be a clear path to the Final Four.
Yeah, I hope so. From your mouth to God's ears. We'll see what happens there. We'll see what
happens. Hopefully Oklahoma gets the big upset win here and solidify their standing when it comes to the tournament.
Well, I mean, think about this from the Oklahoma perspective, though. I mean, if they were to beat Auburn on the road in Neville, I mean, that's a signature win. And this comes after, knocking Vanderbilt out of the top 25. Then I think the whole narrative about Oklahoma changes. This is a team that was undefeated going into conference play. They stumbled a little bit going into SEC play, but then it seems like they've refound their footing after 2 big wins back to back. I mean, the narrative, this changes Oklahoma's season if they pull this off.
Yeah. So, it's just been an up and down thing. So they had a win over South Carolina, and then, they picked up, they had a loss. They got blown out by Georgia. They lost another close game to Texas A&M, but then were able to get right against Vanderbilt. And, when Jeremiah Fears is going, they're really, really good, but he's had some struggles in SEC play. Now he's supposed to be still a high school senior, but he made the early move to college basketball, and he's kind of still figuring some things out, but I think he did against Vanderbilt, and he's looking a lot better. But, Auburn, I mean, this is going to be the toughest test that he's faced all season, because Auburn is a really, really good defensive team. They're really good on the interior, and they're going to make him work for every single thing.
Yeah. What are your expectations for Oklahoma tomorrow night when they come to Neville?
Well, I mean, the hope is that they just go and they battle. I mean, you don't want moral victories, and you don't want to, yearn for a moral victory, but you just want to have a good showing. So many times that this team has struggled, they've struggled to create shots. They've struggled to get good ball movement. They struggled to get guys in the interior, but the biggest issue has been the rebounding battle. And, Texas A&M just this last week out rebounded Oklahoma by a big margin. They had more offensive rebounds than Oklahoma had total rebounds in the game. And that completely decided a game that was within 10 points. had Oklahoma been just a little bit better in the rebounding effort, they might have actually pulled off that win. And so for Oklahoma, they've got to make sure that they take care of the glass. They can't allow Auburn to dominate the offensive boards like they allowed Texas A&M, because that's surely a path to a big defeat on the road.
Yeah, and it does seem like, I don't have the stats to back this up, but like it does seem like Auburn has been a little inconsistent on how effective they have been when it comes to rebounding. They've had their games where they've dominated, and they've had their games where it's like, I feel like Auburn should have done more, especially when Johni Broome is having the type of season that he's had. I mean, he seems like every week he wins SEC Player of the Week or SEC Player of the Month, and I mean, he's probably going to win SEC Player of the Year. I'd be shocked at this point if he doesn't. I mean, I imagine most Auburn folks watching or listening to hear you say like Oklahoma has questions, around the basket. And it's like, oh, well, Johni Broome, like that's a mismatch waiting to happen. And so like, if you're Auburn, I think Auburn's at their best. I know it's exciting when some of these wings and guards like Denver Jones, Dahad Pettiford, and Miles Kelly, when they start making it rain from three. But I think Auburn is at their best when the offense runs through Johni Broome. Shocker. The best player in college basketball, arguably, like, yeah, it should go through him, but it doesn't always feel like that's happening. I wonder if that will be the game plan against Oklahoma tomorrow night.
It should be. I mean, Oklahoma has a veteran in Sam Godwin who plays in the interior, but he's not a traditional big. He's kind of like a smaller power forward. And so you're going to have an opportunity to win on the inside if that's where you attack. That's where Oklahoma's been at its weakest. Their guard play is pretty good. Their wing defenders are pretty good. Jalen Moore is a good 3-4 combo guy, but they just don't have the interior defensive presence to contain a guy like Auburn's going to be able to deploy. I mean, the dude's averaging 18 points per game for a reason. Johni Broome is a really good player. 11.2 rebounds a game. Like it's a big mismatch for Oklahoma.
Yeah. So
if Oklahoma's going to have any chance, they're going to have to double him early once he gets the ball on the block, and they got to double him quick. Because if you get him going and you let him get going and what he wants to do, it's going to be lights out for Oklahoma.
Yeah, I think that's what I would do, is throw everything at Johni and you just hope nobody else steps up, which probably isn't going to happen. But like, I think that's what you got to do. I think that's
you can't give them the easy ones.
No, you can't. You absolutely can't. All right, well, let's give our official picks and predictions and what it means, all that next, right here on this crossover edition of Locked on Auburn and Locked on Sooners. This show brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. John, we all know that FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. The line for this game as we record this Monday afternoon, Auburn is 16.5 point favorite. I think Auburn wins this game. Spoiler, 16.5 is a lot. That's a lot of points in a conference game. I think Auburn wins, but I'm not confident in taking them to cover. I would stay away from this game.
Yeah, I think Auburn covers. Like I said, it's a mismatch on the inside. And this Oklahoma team just hasn't been consistent enough in SEC play for me to buy into the idea that they can go in and beat a team with a dominant big man.
Yeah. Hey, Oklahoma folks watching, the money line is plus 1,000. If you're feeling an upset, this is the value pick for you. Hey, head over to check out our friends at FanDuel.com right now. You bet $5 and you win, you got $200 in bonus bets. Incredible value. All of that at FanDuel.com and of course the FanDuel app. John Williams, Zach Blackerby here with you. Crossover between Locked on Sooners and Locked on Auburn. We kind of gave away our picks there, but I think Auburn wins this game. I don't know if I think it's going to be as lopsided as, the 16.5, just because we've seen Auburn, we've seen Auburn like kind of let other teams back in it. Maybe not so much at home, but certainly on the road, we've seen that. I take Auburn to win, but like I said, I don't know if it's the 16.5, but talking about the mismatch of Johni around the basket, like that's a solid argument. That's a solid argument to say, hey, Auburn could win this one big.
Until they show me they can get through the whole game without getting Sam Godwin into foul trouble early, because he is your best interior defender. Mm-hmm. And you don't really have much after that. Luke Northweather, he's a good, perimeter shooter as a big, but he's not somebody who's going to confuse you for a defensive player of the year candidate. You just don't have anybody that can guard him. And when you have to collapse, that's going to give Auburn's 3-point shooters, who are really good as well, it's going to give them an opportunity to hit from deep. And if they start to get cooking, it's going to be hard for Oklahoma to keep pace when they've been really streaky from the outside. If they have to start shooting a lot of threes, that's not necessarily going to bode well for them. If a guy like Bryson Goodine does get hot in this game, which he's had 2 really good performances against Texas A&M, if he gets hot, that's going to give Oklahoma a chance. But it can't just all be on Jeremiah Fears and can't all be on Jalen Moore. They got to find some tertiary scoring.
Yeah. What do you think the final score is going to be? Let us know either in the comments down below or find us on social media. We'd love to hear from you. John, for all the Auburn folks watching, how can they check out more of your Oklahoma content?
Yeah, you can go hear what I have to say about Jackson Arnold over at Locked On Sooners. I'm still a believer. Listen.
Let's go.
If Hugh Freeze can get his head right, Jackson Arnold has got a chance to be a big-time player for the Auburn Tigers. But yeah, at Locked On Sooners on all their social media platforms and on YouTube. You can follow me at John9Williams on all the social platforms as well.
Yeah, and if Oklahoma folks can't get enough of Jackson Arnold, we're talking about him every single day over at Locked On Auburn. Wherever you find Locked On Sooners, you can find Locked On Auburn there as well. For John Williams of Locked On Sooners, I'm Zach Blackerby of Locked On Auburn. This has been a crossover edition brought to you, of course, by the Locked On Podcast Network.